Should you buy Titanfall 2 in 2022? Titanfall 2 is a game that is considered by many to have been extremely underrated and overlooked from the FPS lineup of games in the last generation, and a game that didn't get the ultimate limelight it deserved. After over 5 years after its initial release, I wanted to try out the game and see why it has such a cult-like following online. And after delving into the world of Titanfall 2 through its well-paced and intriguing campaign section, I'd like to answer the question of whether this game is still worth buying after 5 years of it being out. A quick disclaimer, I tried numerous times to indulge myself into the multiplayer component of the game, but various server problems and other problems made such an idea redundant. So this is a review and consensus of the narrative without spoilers, the gameplay and movement, and also the level design within the campaign itself. Without further ado, let's get right into the review. The campaign of Titanfall 2 isn't one that is extremely long, but that is pretty in line with most other FPS campaigns out there, with the length of it being around 4 to 6 hours depending on how you play the game and your playstyle in general. The game's story follows the events of the first Titanfall, a game I haven't actually played yet, but this game serves up a completely new protagonist and new story, and the new protagonist, Jack Cooper, is a rifleman turned pilot in a sudden turn of events that leaves him with a Titan known as BT. For the game's narrative, it isn't anything monumental, but from the very start of the game, there's a certain idea proposed throughout, the concept being this connection between a pilot and their Titan, which is really intriguing, and the game happily does serve well on that front, and I saw myself becoming quite attached to the Titan BT in terms of the protagonist's perspective, and I enjoyed the various fights with mercenaries and other Titans across the game's 9 or so levels. In terms of level design, there had to be a level of complexity and duality in order to balance out the unique duology that is presented by the dynamic of a pilot and their Titan. The level design does do well to serve up this balance, with some levels being strictly within your Titan, example the last mission, but it also makes sense in the scenario that you're in, and I never felt once throughout the game that I'd been playing as one form of play for a dragged on amount of time, and by the time I got to switch back to the Titan or the pilot, it felt refreshing, especially as a Titan, where there's various upgrades unlocked through playing the game. They gave the Titan so many unique and differentiated playstyles that made it a blast to control each time. The levels are large and varied. There's a distinct value in it being constructed to fit a certain playstyle, which allows the movement of the pilot to be fully derived to its fullest potential, which goes a long way in making the player feel as agile and fast as they can through wall running, double jumps, and various other movement tricks that allow the pilot to feel as fluid as he does in every scenario, which has been helped dramatically by the way the game has designed its various levels. Overall, the narrative does well to complement the overarching gameplay and movement mechanics, which makes it viable in introducing you into the worlds of Titanfall, and the level design is always exquisite, and each level feels completely different from the last, which also opens up an array of new playstyles to adopt and mess around with. I'd like to preface this section of the video by giving the game its absolute deserved and needed praise on account of the Titanfall community and on the basis of how good this game truly is in a gameplay component. Titanfall 2's FPS campaign's gameplay is the greatest and most fun FPS gameplay I have ever played. I think a large part of this is contributed to just the way it feels to control the pilot and the Titan. Both are so fluid in gameplay and movement mechanics, and while playing as the pilot especially, there's this level of grace and fluidity that has not been seen in any other FPS game to date that just feels so great to play. Never have I played a shooter that feels so complex yet so incredibly easy to play at the same time, meshed in with this notion of fluidity and flow that feels so concurrent through the game's runtime that the gameplay never in its entirety gets old or dragged out, and the movement which complements the various combat mechanics is so well designed and incredibly fun to pull off that I saw myself dying just to find new ways to approach a certain area of enemies in the most stylish continuum that I could possibly think of. The movement consists of absolutely fluid running, wall running, double jumping, and sliding, which when collectively packaged into one sole gameplay component gives this sense of fluidity that has never been properly seen in another FPS's gameplay. For combat, the melee felt so satisfying to pull off. I often saw myself just sliding and pushing enemies off ledges and punching them into oblivion because of how satisfying it felt to pull off such moves in these combat scenarios. scenarios. That leads into another sector of the combat, which are the guns and how they play in every scenario. Every gun in this game is so varied, so unique that you want to try out every single one of them out in almost every scenario to get different feelings within the combat that never get old. Each gun is so well designed and makes it so fun to shoot and satisfying to get awesome kills with. I don't think I can properly explain how good the gameplay is without absolutely recommending this game to you based purely on the greatness and complexity of its incredible gameplay. It is such a fun experience that any FPS enthusiast or literally anyone who enjoys good gameplay will have an absolute blast with it. Quickly, let's talk about the gameplay of the Titans themselves. The gameplay is just as great within the Titan as it is outside of it. The Titans are so well designed, and that makes them feel so unique to other machines that you have to control in other games due to the different loadouts which all come with different options for attack, and the seamless switching between these different so-called classes allows for a sense of fun and fluidity within the combat itself that is so damn satisfying to play and even challenging in different aspects, which overall adds to the fun factor of the game's gameplay in its entirety. Overall, the gameplay and movement of Titanfall is its greatest merit, and I believe that anyone should be buying the game based on its gameplay and movement alone, which is so satisfying, so well designed, and so well made to the point where it makes me so sad how EA abandoned this franchise and this game. And I hope one day there will be enough stir up for there to be a Titanfall 3, as I truly just want to experience more of this fantastic gameplay this series can muster. So in conclusion, yes, you should absolutely buy this game even in 2022. There's so many reasons as to why, which I stated throughout the video. The game is on various gaming subscription models such as Game Pass and EA Play, and even without such an offering there, the game I've seen can be priced at around $3 to $6 in various sales, which I believe is an absolute steal for the value and quality of the game that you are getting. And no less, if you choose to indulge in the multiplayer aspect, I think you'll get your money's worth and a lot more. I'd also like to give the game a score based solely on the FPS campaign it delivers, being a luscious 8 out of 10. Anyway, that's all from me for today's video. See you all in the next one. Peace.